Hello and welcome. In this session we'll cover the main menu and we'll cover the toolbar, the bar of icons right beneath the main menu. We've started this session with the Project Assistant open, which is probably a familiar sight since the structural engineering library typically begins with the Project Assistant displayed, and I left it that way specifically to demonstrate that while the Project Assistant is open, the main menu items are grayed out and are inaccessible. I can click on them, but I just get a little ding back from the program. And certain of the icons in the toolbar are also grayed out. Now this is by design. The Project Assistant and the main menu can be thought of as mutually exclusive, and so in order to start working our way through the main menu, what I'll do is just come down and dismiss the Project Assistant by clicking the Close button. Now we can see that the main menu items are in bold and are accessible, so we can start to step through. And the intent in this session is simply to work you through the main menu items, briefly explain what each of the different items does in that main menu, and then do a similar process for the toolbar. Now when I click the File item in the menu bar, we can see a drop-down list of a series of functions that are generally related to file management, file maintenance, and so on. And the other thing we can see is that some of those items are still grayed out, and that would be because some of them are only available or accessible when a project file is currently open. Since I don't currently have a project file open, I don't have the option, for example, to close the project file, and that makes sense. So we will start back up at the top, and the very first item is last project. In other words, an option to open the last project that was accessed on this machine, and it indicates to me that the last project file that I used on this machine was called examples.ec6. So I'll go ahead in this case and I'll click that option so that we can open examples.ec6. We can see that it is now represented in the title bar. We can now see that we have the contents of project file examples.ec6 displayed, and we could begin to work in this project file if that was our intent. Instead though, what I'll do is come back to the file item in the menu bar and click it once so that we can continue to work our way down through the list. Notice that now the option to save project as new and close project are in bold. They're accessible because we have a project file open, so that makes good sense. There's an item in the main menu or the file menu called recent projects, and when I hover the cursor over that item, it pops open a list of the project files that have recently been used on the current machine. So if, for instance, I wanted to come into the project file named Snow2, I could simply point to it with my cursor and click on it, and that would open directly into that project file. As I move down the file item in the main menu, the next item is called Pick Project, and if I click on Pick Project, what this does is it opens a dialog called Select Project File to Open. This tool is convenient because it monitors all of the project files that are used on the current machine, keeps track of the directories or folders that those project files are stored in, and then offers those locations to us in one convenient location where we can come into a particular folder, select a specific project file, and then choose to open that project file if we wanted to get right into it. So it cuts through all of the other files that might be on your machine and gets you directly to EnterCalc project files. Another way to open a project file is from the command called Open Project. This one will open a Windows type open dialog where we could then navigate our way to a particular location on the current machine, select a particular project file, and then come down and choose the Open button and open directly into the selected project file. Beneath that is the New Project item. This is the way that you can create a brand new project file when you first begin to work on one of your projects. The next command down is called Quick Calc. Quick Calc is an important one to understand because it's convenient in the sense that it allows you to perform a quick individual calculation without actually creating a project file first. But it's extremely important to understand that Quick Calcs cannot be saved. So anything that's created using a Quick Calc by default is something that should be printed immediately, because as soon as you close out of a Quick Calc, it's gone. So just use that with caution. The next item in the File menu is called Save Project as New. So when we have a current project file open, like examples.ec6, the Save Project as New command would allow us to save a copy of the current project file with a new name. It'll also give us the option to redirect it to a different folder location if we choose to do that. So this can be convenient in situations where you might want to copy the existing open project file and then change its name and modify certain aspects of it. The next item down is called Close Project. That's just a convenient way to close the currently open project file so that you could then either exit out of Structural Engineering Library or perhaps open a new project file to continue working. The Print Setup option opens a dialog that lets you configure your printer and your settings and your paper size and orientation for your hard copy prints. The Project Print item opens into the Project Printing Manager so that you can quickly and conveniently print a whole series of calculations rather than printing them one at a time. The item named Regenerate Reports recreates the hard copy printed reports in memory so that they can reflect the proper results, the current results for each calculation, as well as all of the current information that you've established for your header and your project information on each individual printed sheet. So you would use this command if for some reason your prints appeared as unavailable in the Project Printing Manager, or if for some reason you made a change such as loading a company logo or changing something in your header that was going to reflect across all of the reports in the current project file. The next item down is called Display Project Assistant. This just recalls that Project Assistant screen that we saw when we began this session, and that can be a convenient way to open an existing project file or to create a new one. And then the last item in the File menu is Exit, which will actually exit Structural Engineering Library. Since I don't want to do that, I won't use that one at this point. But what we'll do is move over to the Settings item in the main menu. And the first item in Settings is General Settings. General Settings opens a dialog that allows you to establish your project file locations, your user-created database locations, and the location where your load combination database will be stored, and then some other general type operational settings. The next item down in the Settings menu is Printing and Title Block. If I select this one, it opens the Program Settings dialog to the Printing and Title Block tab, where I can establish my text for the title block that I want to use. I can select a logo by navigating to the location where a graphic is stored on my machine, indicate whether I want the logo to be printed on my hard copy reports or not, choose to put a box around it, choose to put the title block on the printed reports or not, and indicate whether I want the date and time to be included when I print. I can also choose to save a little bit on the color ink. If I don't require color prints, I can just choose grayscale and just print in black and white. Back to Settings. The next item down is Engineer's Stamp. This allows me to navigate to a location where I have saved a graphic file that represents my engineer's seal, and I can choose whether or not I want that to be printed on a project by project basis with this checkbox right here. Back to settings. The next item down is display settings. This opens to the display size tab in the program settings dialog, where I can choose from 5 different options for structural engineering library window size to try to best maximize the use of my screen real estate, or conversely to try to keep it compact so that I can do things with other portions of the screen as I see fit. The next item down is called Web Update Settings. This opens the Program Settings dialog to the Web Update tab, where I can see the installed build and the allowed version on my machine. I can click to check for updates. I can indicate whether I want the program to automatically check for updates on startup, and this is also the location where I would provide the program with my proxy server settings if in fact I use a proxy server to access the internet. The next item down is default values, and I'll just click this to show that it's going to give a message that says that I have to have a particular calculation open in order to edit the saved values. So that is a module specific item. And what that lets me do, if for instance I was to open say a concrete beam module and then come back to settings, default values, now we see that it reports that it's specifically the default values for the concrete beam module, and it gives me the option to either save all of the current information that's on this worksheet as the new default values, with a big bold note to be careful that you don't have specific information in here that you don't want saved as defaults. Or another option, which is to load or retrieve the values that are currently saved as defaults and put them into this worksheet as a new starting point. I'll just click the cancel button to come out of default values. The next item down is called governing code, and when I use this item it allows me to choose between the options that are available for governing codes for new project files in the structural engineering library. And as of the date of this recording, we have 2 primary options, which are the IBC 2009 and related design standards, or IBC 2006 and its reference design standards. So again, this is an option to select the default governing code for new project files. The note down below says to change the governing code for a currently created project file, and then it gives the instructions to drill into the project manager tree and find the location to change the building code for an existing project file. Back to settings, down to user information. This opens a dialog where we can populate our user specific information. And then the last item in settings is utilities. This is sort of an area where we can provide some additional utilities that may be functional and useful as the module as the system continues to grow. Right now it only has the one item in it, which is for the purpose of registering the ActiveX modules that are used within the software, and is typically something that's done automatically. So this is here more or less as a convenience in case you happen to have difficulty with this. It is something that we may ask you to do on a tech support conversation. The next item that we'll take a look at is the databases item in the main menu. And the first item in databases is the rolled steel database. This item opens the steel section database, where we can choose to either view AISC shapes from various editions, or we can choose to take a look at user-defined steel shapes. Within each of those options, we would then choose what type of section we want to display, because they're all organized by section type. And then down below we can view section properties, sort by the various section properties, and so on. I'll cancel out of the steel section database at this point and come back to databases and then choose the item called wood sections. And this opens the wood section database, which is the database of all the wood section properties for the various types of sawn lumber, glulam, and manufactured lumber products that are incorporated into the structural engineering library. Now, I'll close out of the wood section database so that we can move on to the next and related one in databases, which is called the wood reference design values item. Now this opens the wood stress database, which is a database of all of the what's referred to as base design values, in other words allowable stresses for the various categories of wood as presented in the NDS. I'll click cancel to close the wood stress database, come back to databases, and then open up the concrete masonry unit data item. This opens up a small database with concrete masonry unit information where you can select which reference you want to base the values on, and then you can choose exactly which properties you're interested in, or down below you can take a look at completed wall weights based on different weights of grout, and then the information is presented up here for reference in the table. Back to databases. The last item that we'll take a look at is the load combinations item. This opens up the load combination database where we list the load combination sets that are on the current machine, and I would add that Structural Engineering Library ships with certain basic load combination sets as part of the system, but then from there you're able to use the add button to introduce new load combination sets that may be based on a particular code reference, they may be based on an office standard, they may be based on a particular client's or project's needs, and specified load combination factors that have been provided to you for a particular project. I'll dismiss the load combination database window now, and that brings us to the end of the list of items in databases. So we'll move on over to the tools item in the menu bar and select calculator to show that we have a reverse Polish notation calculator built into the structural engineering library. So you can use that calculator with its functions to perform side calculations. And then what's of interest here is that there's actually a copy button. So if you're performing an intermediate calculation that relates to the current calculation that's going on, you can complete your calculation and then click the copy button, and then you can come over to the calculation itself and you can paste that value into the input field. So it makes for efficient use of the calculator and transferring that data. There's also an item called Reset Calc Defaults, and this command resets the default values for the current calculation to the hard-coded internal default values. It's probably something that is generally most useful in troubleshooting situations and is probably not something that would commonly be needed in everyday use. The next item down is Remove Saved Reports from Project File. As we mentioned, the Structural Engineering Library creates the reports for each of the calculations in the file and saves those reports so that they can quickly be printed from the project printing manager. There are times, though, where a project may be in progress and perhaps it needs to be shipped to a colleague by email, or perhaps you're trying to send us a project file to take a look at something. And sometimes those saved reports can just take up extra space that's not necessary. So this command in the Tools item of the menu bar is available in case you're in a situation where you'd prefer to just remove any of those saved reports to reduce the file size, with the understanding that they'll all just be regenerated at some point later with the regenerate command. And then the last item in the Tools menu is called Optimize File by removing abandoned records. There are some times where file usage and file management will create records for old calculations that are no longer required, and so rather than tote those along, this command can be used to get rid of anything that's no longer necessary and just make the general function of the project file that much more efficient. So that's everything in the Tools item of the menu bar. Now we'll come over to the License item, and the first one in this list is Software Activation. This opens the User Info and Licensing Information dialog to the Product License Control tab, where you have the option to Internet deactivate in this case because my installation is currently activated. If I'm deactivated, then I have the option to Internet activate. I'm also provided options to enter a new product control code if I receive a new one because I've renewed my maintenance and support plan, and for rare instances where Internet activation is not functional because of, for instance, firewalls or antivirus software or real stubborn proxy server settings, some of which can be addressed here through the proxy server specify proxy server button, but there are some instances where those are just insurmountable, and so manual activation is the remaining way to go. So you can use the manual activation button to send us a manual activation code request, and we will send you that code back. I'll just reactivate my installation here and then choose the option to continue to program so that we can continue our way down through the license item in the menu bar. This next item down is called View List of Activated Computers. What this does is it'll be more interesting in situations where you have multiple seats. In my case, I only have a single seat license, and so what this is going to show is that there are a few of us that have pinged or activated against this particular product control code. But what this does for larger organizations is helps you to track down who is currently activated against your license, and if need be, select one of those installations or activations and choose deactivate so that you can free up licenses and let other people use them. The next item down is Web Update Settings. We've actually already seen this when we were over on the Settings item in the menu bar, so we won't recover that, but that's just a convenient way to access the Web Update Settings from a couple different locations. Beneath that are items to renew your maintenance and support plan on the web. This would bring you directly to your user page on our website where you can renew your MSP. There's also a link to manage your software license, which also brings you to a customized page where you can perform certain tasks on that page relating to the management of your license. And then finally, in the license item of the main menu is the license agreement, where you can choose to view the license agreement that applies to the software. The last item in the main menu is Help. The first item in the Help menu is Dynamic Help, which opens up the help that's built into the program, and from there you can drill into specific topics of interest and obtain additional information. And then there's a web documentation, and notice that we've indicated that this one is generally the most up to date because this is the one that we have access to, and regardless of whether or not the user has kept up with their updating, this one will guarantee you that you'll see the latest and greatest information for program documentation, because you'll be accessing the one that we've uploaded on our website. The next item down is Web Frequently Asked Questions pages. So this would bring you to another location on the web where we've compiled many of the FAQs and our responses to those. That can also be a valuable diagnostic tool for you if you come up with a question, because perhaps we've already answered the question here on the FAQ pages. There's an item called Download PDF Docs. In case you would like to have a PDF copy of the documents, you can actually use this tool to download that. I would just use caution with that because it is a fairly large file, so make sure that you allot enough time for that to download and have a reasonably fast internet connection. The following two links are additional links to web pages of ours. We have a For Our Users page on the Enter Calc website, which contains all kinds of information that is of general interest to current users of the program, including update links, download links for the latest installation program, and so on. So this will just take you directly to that location. The next item down is one that brings you directly to the page where we have all of our different videos, our instructional videos on the web. So you can use this link to get directly to that. Beneath that, we have a couple links that are useful for creating help emails or tech support emails, or a tech support fax. Either one of those will open up a form where you can type in your question or your comment. You can, in the case of the email, attach a project file. You can let us know what your question or concern is, and then you can choose to have that ported directly over to your email program and simply click send, and away it goes. The next item down is a check for updates. It's good to check for updates frequently and to make sure that you're using the most current build. So this is a tool that allows you to do that manually if for some reason under the web update settings you've chosen to turn that off. This would allow you to just do things on a manual basis. There's also an RSS news feed built into the program, and we use that to provide information on particular topics when we need to. And so this item will open up that RSS news feed and allow you to take a look at what may be new as far as announcements go. The enhancement and change history item opens up a document that goes over all the changes that have been made to the program on a build-by-build basis, and it discusses things that have been changed or things that have been enhanced in the program so that you can help to track back through and understand why things are slightly different in a newer version, what's been improved, what's been fixed, what's been enhanced or corrected. This item is called Allowed Version Description. This opens up a little dialog that describes the difference between your allowed version and your installed build so that it becomes clear to you what those mean. At times we distinguish between those two, and we may ask you for one of those if you're talking with us on a support question. And so if you need clarification as to the difference between those, you can take a look at this item right here. The item called Licensing just opens up the user info and licensing information dialog. So this is just another way of getting to the same dialog that we saw from the license item. And then last we have Help About, and this will just open up an informational dialog that'll tell you what your current installed build is and what your allowed version is, provides you with some contact information, and so on. Okay, so that is a quick but thorough look at all of the different items that are available in the main menu. The last thing that I'd like to do is just walk through the items that are here in the toolbar, these icons. So starting at the left, the first one is called Display Project Assistant, and if we click that, that just opens up the Project Assistant that we're starting to get pretty familiar with. The next item over is called Display Recently Used Project Files. And if I click that one, it opens up this file pick list that gives me a list of the most recently used project files on this machine, indicates where they were stored, and it allows me to select one and then load that particular project file, or I can even click the Open button and spring into an Open Project File dialog that would allow me to navigate my machine and move directly to a particular location. The next item over is called Create a New Project File. That would open up the Enter New Project File Name dialog where I could create a brand new project file when one first starts. The next item over is Open a Project File. And this one would again open up that window or dialog that allows us to navigate to a particular location on the machine or the network and then select a project file of interest and open it directly. The next item over is Save Current Project File as a New File. This one is similar to what we saw on the File item in the main menu bar, where we can take an existing open project file, save it under a new name and potentially in a totally different location, and then edit it as necessary to make subtle modifications, but convenient to use an existing file as a starting point. This item, which I won't use right now, is Save and Close the Current Project File, so that does exactly what it says. There's a print icon that's currently grayed out right now, but that would normally allow me to print the currently active project file. The next item over is called Program Settings. And this one opens the Program Settings dialog that we've already seen from the Settings item in the main menu. This one that looks like a calculator is exactly that. It's the quick link to open the RPN calculator built into the program. Then we have an icon that would allow us to create an email to send to tech support. We have an icon that would allow us to check for updates. We have the icon that opens the product licensing and activation window that we've already seen. From there we can internet deactivate, internet activate, change product control codes, etc. The next icon over is the one that we could use to display the help system. So this opens up the built-in help, and then we can navigate the table of contents and get into a specific topic of interest. And then the last icon on the toolbar is the Rss Feed, and this allows us to open into particular sections and then review announcements of interest over here in the right hand side of the dialog. So when there's a new announcement made and posted to the Rss Feed, you'll know that because your Rss Feed icon will show with a small exclamation point in it. That's how you're notified of new announcements, and then you can come up and take a look at those by clicking on that icon. Okay, so that is a thorough look at the main menu and the toolbar. At this point, I'll just mention that there are some other icons that are here on a module by module basis, but they're generally pretty consistent, so we might as well step through those. There's an icon that will bring you directly to a help screen that's specific to this particular calculation that's open. The next icon over is one that brings you directly to a video that is specific to the currently open module. There's an option to print preview the report for the current calculation. Next to that is an option to create a PDF copy of the report for the current calculation. and then an option to actually print a hard copy of the current calculation report. This icon is referred to as the Properties icon, and it's the one that offers print options for the current calculation. So they're module specific, and in certain instances they allow you to control the level of detail that will be included in your report. This next icon, if you hover over it, will in certain modules display an enlarged view of the member that's being designed. The cancel button will close the current module without saving. The save as new icon allows you to save this calculation as a new calc in the current project file, and that will leave the original one unchanged. The save only icon or button allows you to save the calculation data and results without actually exiting out of the current module. And then finally there's the save and exit button, which saves the current calculation module data and results and also closes back out to the project manager. So with that, that's a thorough look at the main menu, the toolbar, and then some of the subset tools that are common to most of the modules in Structural Engineering Library. Hope the session has been helpful, and thank you very much for your time.